Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm joined with my aunt, Sally King, who we are currently camping in her yard down here in Melbourne, Florida. Aunt Sally, thanks for joining me today.
I'm glad to be here.
So, first of all, let's talk about your sister, my mom.
Your sister, your mom. Okay. My sister, your mom. All right.
She got this crazy idea of converting a 67 Plymouth Valiant into a makeshift camper back in the mid-'80s. What were some of your thoughts when she first told you what she was doing?
Besides the fact that she was crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. I envied her. I really did. I thought that was amazing. She said everybody does this whole thing backwards. You should take the time off when you're actually able to do something and you're not crippled and you're not tied to doctor's appointments or whatever, and see our country.
Yeah.
So that's what she did. So I did kind of admire her.
Yeah.
I'm glad she had
after you got past the crazy part.
Yeah, with the crazy, well, it's Loretta.
And she was pretty determined once she made up her mind that she was going to do something. So I'm assuming you didn't even attempt to talk her out of it, but it wouldn't have done any good.
It wouldn't have done any good. There was no way. I mean, I told her, I said, good for you, go for it.
Yeah. And I know when she first called me, I think I was 15 or 16 at the time, and again, my first reaction was, she'd kind of lost it a little bit. But then as she kind of gave me some of the reasons, same as you, I was like, wow, that is actually pretty cool that you have the guts to do that. So what are some of the, I know she had a ton of stories, but what are some of the stories that you enjoyed hearing her tell about her adventures?
Oh, well, the first one that comes to mind is kind of like in the middle of the whole thing, and that's when she drove her car out and she got as far as California, and the car broke down, and so she had to have somebody to tow her to a gas station, and she went calmly and spent the night in a hotel and got up the next morning and goes, well, how much was the towing bill? And the guy told her, and she says, well, how much is the car worth? And the guy said, she said, so would you like to have a car? And she promptly took her license plate off of the car and flew back to earn some more money and keep on going.
Yeah, and that's when she graduated to the camper.
She was back here for quite a while before she graduated to the camper,
Yeah. So when she told you that she was going to kind of reinvent her career and go back to school to be a drug and alcohol counselor, again, what?
We had a little bit in common there because I was asked several times. I, at the same time, was reinventing my career, and I was becoming a sign language interpreter. And we did a lot of talking back and forth as far as the deaf community and the fact that they didn't have interpreters who would go into AA meetings, because AA meetings could be very trying and difficult to get those messages across. And she kept trying to get me to go, and I had another deaf friend that kept trying to get me to go, and I kept trying to not go. I did a little bit of counsel, but not much. And so we were kind of on the same page. We knew that we wanted to do something with people that were disabled in some sort, whether they were disabled because they had an addiction or whether they were disabled because they had a hearing loss. So we talked a lot about that, going back and forth, and she did come in contact with a couple deaf people that were there, and she asked me back and forth, and so we talked about it on that level. I admired the fact that she was going back to school for it, and she in turn same to me. I guess we're both doing the same thing then. We're both going to try and do something to help somebody else.
Yeah, and that's cool, and I think that's something that's a little bit of a family trait, is that no one in the family is scared to reinvent themselves after they've been in a career for a while. So I mean, how old were you when you first started getting into interpreting?
I was probably in my late 30s when I started taking classes. I was working with some disabled kids. They were trainable, mentally handicapped was the term that they called them at that time. And we were working with them, and their speech was bad. And so in order to communicate, we started taking sign language classes, and the teacher and I together, and we'd go out and we'd do the classes and come back and try to teach the basics, the days of the week and the numbers and the months and I want and what you want and different kinds of foods. But at the same time, my teacher that was teaching me had a deaf family. She was deeply engrossed in the deaf community and their culture, and she would constantly bring in deaf people, and they kept encouraging me to go further and further until I finally went ahead and took on a job as an interpreter in the school system, and I got my certification, both state and then national certification, at about the same time your mom was getting hers.
Yeah.
And that was back, it was my late 30s, early 40s. Kind of a weird time to start learning a new language, but I did.
Yeah, and you did pretty good at it for a bunch of years.
Yeah, for a bunch of years. I retired from the school system after 33 and a half years, and probably about 20 of those were working with the deaf.
Yeah. And still doing it now in your retirement on occasion,
on occasion.
Job here, job there, where you go in and
if it doesn't interfere with my lunch schedule or my getting together with the other women or the friends that we do things with or whatever. But yeah.
I want to talk about that a little bit. So you have a really cool network of friends here. We walk with you guys daily, and it really is kind of a small family there that walks around Wickham Park on a daily basis. Tell me how important that is to you to have that network of friends.
If I didn't have that network of friends, there's a lot of things in my life. I mean, we were always there for each other in good times and in bad. And there were times when we picked each other up, and that was the same thing. It was an extended family. It was just like, Loretta would say the same thing. And it was like she had her circle of friends, we had ours, and our friends mingled, and it was just, without friendships, I don't see how people can make it through.
Yeah, it is so important.
And it's a special thing too. It's really special because, like I said, good times and bad, they're there.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of these people have been lifelong friends, or literally lifelong friends for you guys.
Pretty much lifelong, yeah. Our kids grew up together, we raised them together, and the kids are still friends together.
Yeah.
And we've been through, like I said, hard times and good times.
Yeah,
and crazy times.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So what were your first thoughts when I had told you that Sandy and I were going to sell all our stuff and
like mother, like son,
around in an RV? Because
yeah,
if we'd had this conversation 5 years ago, or probably even 3 years ago, there's no chance I would have said that this is something that we would do. But didn't surprise you at all?
No, it didn't. And again, I envy the fact that you can do it, and I'm glad that I can help you in what small ways I have, as far as letting you establish this as a home base. And I'm very glad, and I will, like your mother, live vicariously through you and your little trips here, there, and the other place.
Yeah, and we are extremely grateful for the fact that you have full hookups here for us, which again was a benefit of one of your friendships.
Yeah.
So you had friends, John and Trish, who did the exact same thing that we did for 4 or 5 years. They
well, they were with us. They were with us. They did it before they became full-time, but when they were full-time, they were with us through the summers for about 6, maybe 7 years.
Yeah.
And they come back here because this is where their family was, and sometimes it's easier to stay with a friend than it is with family.
Yeah. No, it's great having the 30 amp hookups that we can turn on the air conditioning and sewer and the whole 9 yards. So we are very appreciative of that and glad that you and Uncle Randy have accepted us in here.
We did the same thing with Carol. When Carol decided she was going to get a camper, which was after you had decided you were, she said she was going to get her camper, but I don't know how to work this thing. So she says, do you think I could come over and Uncle Randy could show me what I need to do? And so Uncle Randy went out and helped her and showed her everything on her camper, and she started taking her trips too. But of course she's still working. She hasn't retired to become full-time, but she's enjoying it too.
Yeah, it's definitely a great lifestyle. I mean, it's Sandy and I have absolutely no regrets at all with what we're doing, for sure. We didn't expect that we would be in Florida in June. Wasn't really part of our plan, but I think everything happens for a reason.
Florida in August and July is tough.
Yeah, yeah, there's no doubt about that. But we get to be here for Jim's birthday and Bobby's birthday, so I guess the good Lord was looking out for us and said this is where you guys need to be for June. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I know I wrote in my book, in my dedication to Mom, one of the things that you had mentioned about she was an organ donor, so when she had passed away, I don't remember if it was her retina or corneas.
It was the corneas.
That got donated, and you had mentioned that you hope that whoever receives them would get to see the same beauty that she saw in this country. I mean, what kind of made you think of that when you heard your sister's eyes were getting donated?
She was good, and she was a person who gave of herself, which, like I said, is pretty much, we all give a certain amount of ourselves. But she saw this country. My husband and I, and Jenny, we went to France. And when I told her we were going to France was right after Uncle Bill died, and he was 39. And right after that, I thought, life's too short. We had this invitation to go and visit France, and so we went, did it. And her response was, there's so much beauty in this world, in this country, that I want to see before I want to go and see anything else. And so I was thinking in those terms, in the fact that right now, whoever is out there looking, I hope they're in an RV somewhere, taking off on a cattle drive across, or helping somebody at 9/11, Ground Zero, whatever. I just hope they have seen the beauty in this country that she saw.
Yeah, because we know a lot of what she saw, but there's so much that she saw that we don't even know about. And I think for Sandy and I, that's one of the things that we're, slowly starting to discover, is just some of those things that maybe she didn't tell the rest of us about that she saw as well. So, so I definitely hope whoever got that did get to see some of the beauty that my mom.
She always said she never met a stranger.
Yeah, and that's true. She had no problem going up and just striking up a conversation with somebody. Something that I am certainly not blessed with.
Well, it's a trait you might want to take up and try and consider learning.
So I ask all my guests one final question, which is, it comes from a song by Michael Franti, Gloria, where the opening lyrics say, "Many little people in many little places do many little things to make the whole world change." So what do you think one of the little things that Sally King does on a daily basis to make the world a better place is?
That's a tough question. What do I try to do to make working in the deaf community, working with the children, giving a little bit of myself to them and making their life that much easier. Not easy by any standards, but a little bit easier with the communication, with the fact when I worked with the handicapped kids, I went into it thinking I was going to give them so much. Well, that's not the way it works.
No.
They end up giving you a lot more. And the first day I found that out, when this little girl in a wheelchair that I felt so very sorry for ran over me with her wheelchair and thought nothing of it and said, well, pick up and keep going. And it's like, all right, I guess I will, so that was it. And that's basically it. Just being able to help other people. It's something that we've always done in some form or another. The hospital work, the work with kids, the work with the deaf, just being able to give of yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Yeah, and it's funny the way you said that, is that we oftentimes go into that thinking that we're actually helping.
Yeah.
And in return, we're the ones who find out that we're being fulfilled by helping others.
Absolutely.
And I know with, obviously with you with teaching and interpreting, me with coaching, there's so many lessons that I've learned from players that, you think you're teaching them, but in turn they're actually really teaching you a lot of lessons as well.
And you don't realize it until you sit back and all of a sudden go, wow.
Yep.
When I sit in the classroom and I hear these kids and their stories, and some of the schools that I've worked in have been tough schools, and when they come in and they talk about, that shooting that happened last night, that was my cousin or my aunt, or they were involved in it, and they bring this baggage in with them to school, but still they learn.
Yeah.
And still they get on with doing things.
Yeah, they find a way to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of
and
times,
if they can do that, and
can.
faced with those things, it's piece of cake for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It definitely puts things in perspective.
It absolutely does.
So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know you were a little anxious about this initially.
Who, me? Anxious? No,
but,
never.
Really, like I said, Sandy, I really appreciate you guys letting us hang out in your yard for weeks and months at a time.
And I appreciate the help you've done around the house, doing things with it. And I've enjoyed having you guys in, having dinner with us, and Sandy cooking sometimes, me cooking sometimes us going out. It's always been fun just to sit and watch TV, play Farkle, or do whatever.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. I'm glad. I mean, we hadn't spent a lot of time in Florida since Mom passed away, so I guess we're making up for a little bit of lost time over the.
Well, I'm grateful that you are, and I'm grateful that you decided to do it here.
Cool, folks. Again, check out my other blogs and podcasts at danclouser.com. And Sally, thanks again for joining me.
You're welcome.